Hi there, it's me, Matt Lane, co-host of Because the Universe, and it seems like you have missed a show, but don't worry, here it is. We hope you enjoy it.
Across campus, online, and on 12:51 a.m. This is your student radio station.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock, and you are listening to Because the Universe, your fortnightly satirical it's 10 o'clock on Saturday. That's a lie.
It is a lie.
Because it's not 10 o'clock on a Saturday.
The lines have begun already. Stop
turn
again.
The thing down,
That's it.
Right.
Slide has stopped.
I'm sorry. So let's be totally honest with you.
Yes.
This is Because of the Universe. You haven't tuned into something completely wrong. It is Because of the Universe.
But we are speaking to you from the past.
We are. Being physicists and geniuses, we've cracked time travel. This is us. It's what time is it now? 4 o'clock.
Yeah, 4 o'clock on Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
So currently we are in an exam.
Right now for you, in your time.
In your present.
In your frame of reference.
Indeed.
We're in
Hamiltonian mechanics
and physics of fluids.
Yes. So we are presently weeping.
Probably.
At our desks.
Yep.
I mean, if you happen to be in the same exam, in which case I don't know how you're listening to this. But we're the ones in the floods of tears. Yeah,
that's us. So we're pre-recording this for you because we love you that much. Because we couldn't be there on the day.
Indeed.
Here we are, giving up more time for you.
We are just that lovely.
So let me introduce this again. In fact, I have a better idea. Harry Manners.
Yes.
Since you have a beautiful, deep, chocolatey, velvety, dark roast coffee voice that just gives everyone the shivers, why don't you?
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce the show?
Me? Introduce the show?
Go for it, Harry.
I've never done that before. Let's give it a go.
Raw 12:51 a.m. 12:51 a.m. 12:51 a.m.
Good morning. This is Because the Universe on radio at Warwick. It's your bi-weekly satirical science panel show, and we've got a wonderful lineup of treats.
Stop! I can't take it any longer. Harry, that was absolutely brilliant.
I really enjoyed that.
It was superb.
Yes, a la, Marks and Spencer's advert.
They have a couple of things to learn from you,
yeah,
I think.
They always come to me.
And what was the name of that sweep?
That was Sexy.
That was the Sexy sweep.
It was the Sexy sweep.
Okay, so you really are now probably wondering whether this is Because of the Universe.
Yes, this is definitely Because of the Universe.
It is Because of the Universe.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing something slightly differently today.
We are, yes. We're going to have a different format, so it's not a panel show today. It is essentially me and Matthew, the two hosts of the regular show, reflecting and extending on the topics that we've addressed in previous shows.
Yeah, so we're going to be taking a look back at the year because this is our last show of the year. We've been doing this for a year now. We'll be back next year.
We'll definitely be back if we can, yeah.
But we're going to be doing something else as well next year. We're going to start filming some podcasts.
We are, so they'll be available online on our YouTube channel.
YouTube, yeah. And the format of that will be slightly different. It will just be me and Harry talking much more fully about the news or anything in the shows that we haven't been able to pick up on.
So we always have a great plethora of material that we never get to address in the actual shows. So this will great, essentially a great method of extension for anybody who wants to get in touch with the details, in a much greater
way.
Yeah, in a deeper way. Yeah.
And then we're also going to be able to waffle on a little bit about some things that we care about. And for some reason, maybe some people out there would want to hear this. I don't know why.
I don't know. I have no idea. But we need an outlet for our insanity.
That we do. So we're going to be doing that, and we're going to be trying that out a little bit today.
We are. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
But
it's going to be called, so I don't forget, we're going to call the podcasts Because the Multiverse. It's like Because the Universe, only more. Which is a physics
It is. It's hilarious.
I love it.
You Google it if you don't get it, because you'll just, break down in tears.
It's so funny. I was so proud of my... Anyway, enough. So this is Because the Universe. This is our last show. It's just me and Harry today. Let's break for a song before we do this.
Okay, so here's Taylor Swift. Bad.
Text RAW on 075 071 87777.
This is your student radio station. This is your Raw.
Welcome back. This is Because the Universe on Radio Warwick.
Stop. Do it again, but in your sexy voice.
Do it again in the sexy voice.
Yep.
Do we want the sweeper again?
No, just...
Okay.
Because it was so good the first time.
All right, then. Welcome back. This is Because the Universe on Radio Warwick. Your bi-weekly satirical science panel show. This is our last show, and you're in for a treat.
Oh my word.
Oh wow, isn't that wonderful?
I'm going to be laughing about this for a long time.
I'm sure people will be laughing at me for a long time,
Harry,
as usual.
I'm looking forward to when you watch it. Listen to this back. It'll be great.
When I listen to this back, I'm sure I'll
be there.
break down in shame.
Anyway,
yes.
Should we just, what do you want to do? Should we dive in with talking about news, or go back and reflect, or what?
Shall we reflect? Let's reflect on what we've covered this year. So we've had a great lineup of shows, haven't we? We've had some brilliant guests in, and we've made an effort to get a great spread of people from across all the departments, or as many as we could get.
Which has been one of the things that we really wanted to do.
Yeah, to make it so accessible, which is kind of important. I find that a lot of people who try and make science accessible end up making it accessible to scientists, or it's difficult to get a genuine perspective of the uninitiated, which is what we wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. I think particularly if you remember the episode we did on quantum.
Yes,
I got excited.
You did. You got carried away, and we apologised profusely to anybody who saw that.
I don't apologise because it was superb.
It was only momentarily. You ran away with yourself.
But actually, what that highlights is there are some things that you really want to communicate to people.
Yes.
And it's really difficult to do that when they are quite so complicated.
Yes, it's hard to get away from the fact that these are very difficult issues. Yeah. They are issues that we still haven't answered. A great many of them are mysteries in their own right.
If the science wasn't hard, people wouldn't have to do degrees, and they wouldn't have to do PhDs, and then everyone would understand it.
Yes, exactly. People would already know about it if it was that easy to know about.
Yeah, but it's not.
No,
sadly.
Unfortunately it's not. But it is fascinating.
We have loads of exams in it.
Yes, we do. Just take a moment to address the solemnity of our situation.
We're not burnt out, Harry.
Not at all. No, we're raring to go. But
it's been a brilliant year.
It has. And I feel like I've learned a great many things from a great many people, and this I think was a great avenue by which to do that, to get a real perspective of people who don't study science and haven't since GCSE. I think it's associating with the kind of people that we do on an everyday level, it can quite easily make you blind to to how people really feel about it.
Yeah. Because
science aside, public perception of science is equally important to the progress of science.
We should definitely do a show on just the public perception of
science. We should.
As well as a general show on perception and metaphysics, which I want to do.
Yeah. I think we've got somebody.
Do email us, please.
Yes.
If you have anything that you want us to talk about,
and if you want to come on by any chance,
drop us an email. What is the email?
It's becausetheuniverse@aol.com. You can also get in touch with us through Twitter. So that's at COS the Universe, cause the Universe. Or you can get in touch with us at Facebook. So it's facebook.com/because the universe.
But we are pre-recording, so if you get into contact with us now, we're not going to reply.
Yes, there is no one in there at the moment, so any one of those avenues is just fine, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. So let's have a bit of a convo about any particular issues we want to revisit from the show. And I know you said it flippantly when we were walking. When we were walking to the studio, you flippantly said, "Oh, you want to talk about bees?"
Yes, I did.
I do want to talk about.
You want to talk about the bees?
Right.
The bees is the good one.
I want to revisit this because this is potentially the most serious. Bearing in mind that it was a news story I brought to the table. Okay?
Yes, it was. Several times.
And, I mean, some of my news stories, I looked back at them just a moment ago, they were gold. They were absolute gold. There was the koala chlamydia.
Which was, I think that set a precedent.
Then there was...
the gold standard.
Then there was the
shrimp.
The killer demon...
Camp shrimp. Mincing their way up the riverbed.
That was good. And there were the deadly disease that was killing all the starfish with the horror zombie account.
Yeah, the zombie starfish.
Some really ridiculous news stories. And then there was this one news story that kind of got overshadowed, I feel.
It did. I feel that is why this issue is so very dangerous, because it's so easy to
overshadow.
It's also so easy to satirize.
Yeah.
So easy to make it into one of those other stories where people go, they're just bees.
They're just bees.
But they're not. I mean, people have known about this for centuries.
Yes.
The intricate reliance of every level of an ecology upon each other.
Yeah.
If you take away the base, the whole thing falls down, and that is inevitable.
They are the mainstream pollinator.
Yes.
Bees are the mainstream pollinator. And so basically, I'll just summarise a little bit. The point of the story was to say that every year for the last 10 years, bee populations have fallen by about 30%. It's now up to about 40% falling per year.
Every year?
Every single year for the last decade.
That's absolutely astonishing.
When you think about what that means, it means that you've got, less than 10... I mean, I need a calculator.
So what is that
Never
in 10
mind.
years?
Yeah.
So 0.7 to the power of 10,
Yeah,
isn't it?
but that's small.
That's
not large.
That's reciprocal 7 to the power of 10. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's
that
nothing.
So when we say the bees are on decline, we don't mean you're losing a couple of percent here and there.
No, imagine compound interest on your account. The amount that you can make in Wall Street or something like that through compound interest.
But
apply that in reverse.
Yes, in reverse.
So you have some kind of exponential decay.
And so it's a huge problem, and it has started to have an effect. I've looked for the article that I had, and it's annoying. It seems to be one of the very few articles I didn't actually reference, so I can't find it again. But it had some brilliant stats about the real cost that this is having.
Right.
And
you mean in a financial sense, or
both in a financial sense and also just in what proportion of the fruit and vegetables that we eat are directly pollinated from bees?
Right.
And there aren't substitute pollinators. And it is something ridiculous, like, it will range between 40 for one thing, right up to 90% of some other crop.
That's amazing. You
So
just don't. It's hard. I think that's always a stage people forget about the idea that they still have to pollinate everything, and there is no mechanism that we've developed to replace that.
No.
We're entirely reliant on the biosphere to do that for us.
Yep.
And we can talk about Fitz-Haber process and all this kind of thing, and our amazing ability to manipulate the world and its resources to, feed a massive population. But you still have to get the bees to go and pollinate.
Yeah.
But I find this astonishing. But again, you can highlight how easy this is to satirize by saying something on the order of, that fraction, 30% every year for 10 years is tiny. It is tiny. It makes you think that 10 years ago, the Earth was knee deep in bees. Yeah. Can you imagine? I reckon I see quite a few bees around in the summer.
That being said, I was thinking about this today because I keep seeing articles coming up on Facebook about if you see a bee on the floor, it's probably not dead, a bumblebee. It's probably just tired. So put some sugar water down.
Yes.
I know it's just been a bit cold recently and it started raining again, but before that we had a warm spell. You would have expected to see some bees. I saw my first bee of this year yesterday.
Really?
My first bee. And then when I think about that, really, there were loads more bees than that before.
But this also could be just a matter of perception. Memory is entirely fallible.
Yeah,
and in all these cases, it'll always be
because
placebo.
there are less bees.
I think also there's a growing phenomenon in, we link this into climate change, that spring is coming later and later every year.
And it's blurring.
It is actually absolutely. The seasons are becoming. I mean, I think we could mention this that the Earth's 4 seasons are quite a transient phenomenon. I mean, for the most of the Earth's history, there have been 2 seasons, wet and dry. And the idea that spring is...
And as we all know, that is still the case.
It is. Well, see, the thing is that it's been in place for many tens of millions of years, which is when most of mammals have evolved. And therefore, because mammals are the predominant kind of I don't know, is it the order, I think it is, or the phylum, whatever it is, that are currently reigning on Earth, they've evolved exclusively under this 4-season regime. And suddenly that might be in danger of shifting, which has happened in the Ice Ages somewhat. Which is why that is theorized that that's causing some of these major mega extinctions, which eliminated all the megafauna like mammoths and things.
Yeah.
So we may be in danger of losing species which are already endangered. We've got dolphins and whales.
So I read the most disgusting statistic that was in the last, and I'm going to get this wrong, so forgive me, but it's still relevant. It's something like in the last decade, 50% of all species have been lost.
Yes, I've heard something along those lines.
It's just terrifying.
It is absolutely horrible. It's hard to compute because...
Well, you can't, and that's part of the problem.
No, exactly,
that's why it's so easy.
It escapes grasp. But it makes you wonder how much this is entirely dependent on almost a more sinister aspect of human nature.
Right, so
that we turn to the idea like a panda, and we would move hell and high water to save one species because it's cute.
Oh, they're just the most depressingly useful. I mean, seriously. You're only going to eat one plant, and there's not very much of it, and then you're not going to eat sometimes.
Yep.
and then you don't really have any sex drive. That's clearly not a good thing to have evolved.
Yeah.
They're just the most pointless. I don't have any sympathy for pandas at all. At all.
I think we get rid of them.
And the same is true for me with polar bears, actually.
Polar bears?
I'm much more interested in the amount of ice than I am the number of polar bears. And I know they're but it's...
But yeah, I mean, polar bears are so closely related to brown bears.
Yeah.
They're just white brown bears, essentially. They're just a bit bigger. Yeah. And they need to be bigger because they need more warmth because it's cold. Mm-hmm. But this does tie in with the idea that every species has an equal right to exist. And if you take that metric, then that's fine, but you do have to be rigorous. And, that means that every shade of beetle is equally as important as a polar bear. But if you don't want to apply that metric and you want to save the ones that you find favourable, that's fine. But then save the ones that are useful and are necessary.
Even the metric of saying each species has an equal right to live, yes. I'm not convinced that's a particularly good metric.
No, I don't think so.
Because actually, your beetle is far more important ecologically than your brown bear.
That's exactly what I meant. When you say, like, if you're going to save some, then save the ones that are useful and necessary, like the bees.
Like the bees. So I do have a stat here of actual fiscal cost. Which is shortage of bees in the US have increased costs of farmers renting them for pollination services by 20% this year.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
That isn't a cost in terms of loss, but that's the cost of people having to bring bees in.
Yeah.
But the problem there is I remember reading an article a fortnight, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, that was saying how even these colonies that you can privately rent,
right,
they're losing all of their bees.
Oh.
And this is that thing. Do you remember CCD, colony collapse disorder?
Yeah.
And there was a report, and I mentioned this in a show recently. There was a report that confirmed the thing that I said back in Can Science Save Us when we talked about.
Yes, I remember this. Yeah.
And so this was a report that confirmed this theory, which is it's neonicotinoids, which is what we put in pesticides or herbicides. One of the two, can't remember. And it knocks out the bees' homing instincts, so they can't get home, and so they fly away. They ingest a neonicotide, they get addicted to it, so they will choose
that
plants that have neonicotides in the herbicide than those that don't. And then their homing instinct is gone, and they literally dehydrate, or they don't get any sugar because they can't find their way home and they die. And that's why there aren't any bodies in the hives.
They've just gone.
And so it's really, really, really simple. How do you solve this problem? Since the main factor is neonicotides, well, you stop using neonicotides.
Yes.
And the defense that your agricultural giants use is they say, scientists have independently tested all of the compounds that we use and found them to be safe for bees. And the point that this study made is, while that is true, except that it's not, because here is a study that shows that neonicotides, which you use in the concentrations you are using them in, because you use a combination of products, and all of them have a small amount of neonicotide.
So is it a compound effect?
And so that argument of saying, well, all the studies have been done, so you can't really tell us what to do because we're doing what you've told us to do, that completely misses the point. It's not about whether or not you are or aren't doing what you've been told to do. It's the common sense.
Well, this is just the free reign of megacorporations, and essentially, these are profit-driven organisations, and they are not duty-bound or obligated in any way to do anything which is good for the environment. Or profit is the only thing that matters, which makes perfect sense. If you're operating under that regime, then that's inevitable. That these studies are being done as a placation measure. They're not, when I say that the studies have been done so that they can say the studies have been done, for no other reason. And therefore it makes perfect sense that they would find any kind of loophole in this, which is that it's a compound effect, and therefore they're not responsible for the effects of any single element.
But even a profit argument, that's so short-sighted, because while they may be able to save costs or make more money now, in the long run, this is going to be damaging to the agricultural industry.
Our entire civilization is built on the idea of money now and who cares about later, because you can say the same thing about any unrenewable resource that we have, oil, and you think, we could develop solar panels if we really wanted to. We could develop a great many renewable resources to an enormous degree if we really wanted to, very quickly. The reason we don't is because it's a bit of a faff, and it would be difficult and it would cost some money.
And that's the thing. It would at least, definitely in the short run,
in the short term,
in the long run, it would cost.
Yes, some rich cats somewhere wouldn't be able to afford their fifth jet, and that's that. Sorry, humanity.
their fifth jet that brings us nicely on to our next topic of conversation, which is climate change, global warming, and the hilariousness that is politicians.
Yes.
Because we've avoided ranting about this, but I don't care. It's the end of the year. What can anyone do? We're going to rant.
No, it absolutely is cogent to the matter.
Yeah,
I think.
but before we do,
yep.
let's break for a song.
Let's break for a song.
And then we're going to rant about climate change and politicians.
We are. So we're going to go for...
Your student radio station on 1251 AM.
This is your Raw.
And we are back. This is Because the Universe on Radio at Warwick. This is our last show of the year, and we are essentially reflecting on everything that we've covered so far. So if you're just tuning in, then you are coming in at the right time. So have we got anything that's been going on, Matt? I mean, news-wise? I mean, very briefly, I want to mention our last show. We did a 3D printing again, briefly. I live with an engineer, Ed, who came on as one of our guests for the second time. He owns his own 3D printer, which is wonderful. And I just wanted to mention something that he printed out the other day, which was some kind of propeller, which essentially sits in your hand, and it's like a top. And if you blow on the propeller blades, it spins and flies away. And it really just amazing that the degree, the precision to which something like that has to be
I need to come
printed
over.
to.
I need to see this.
Yes, indeed, and it's actually we've been studying. This is a demonstration of the magna force. With, the air being a fluid and
Don't
acting.
remind me. This is the exam
Yes,
we're going to have on
it is.
Saturday.
This is exactly the exam that we are sitting in right now as
Yeah.
this is broadcast. But I just thought it'd be an excellent
the
link.
irony.
Yes, indeed, the irony. Yes, but I'm continually amazed
3D
by the kind
printing
of abilities that it has.
absolutely incredible.
It is a barreling pace which
It's-
doesn't seem to be letting up anytime soon.
I was watching. In fact, I think I sent it to you. We had. Do you remember recently we were corresponding and watching a load of robotics videos?
Yes.
There was the spider. There's this incredible robotic spider. Did you watch that one?
I did, yeah.
There's this incredible
It's-
robotic spider. It's not necessarily the spider itself that's impressive. It's the algorithm, the programming that has been written that means oh my word, just the amount of study that must have been done on how spiders walk to write a program
It's
it's
simulate
incredible. And I don't know if you recall, that entire thing was 3D printed.
I
That
didn't
whole
recall that,
robot
no.
was 3D printed.
That's amazing.
Mm.
I expect by the time we come back next year from from the summer, it will have already moved on to some kind of absurd level.
Well, it's every so often you see that there's a new technique, a better technique,
Yes,
doing it
it
faster.
seems every couple of weeks, and they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, we've done this now. Everything's 10 times faster.
And I know we say this every time we talk about 3D printing. Go on TED Talks.
Yes,
if you're
I
listening,
mean, if
go on
you
TED,
still
have a
haven't-
look. Go on YouTube. You must look at this because it really it's like something that isn't real.
Yeah, it's completely out. It's the kind of thing that you think is done by CGI. You look at it and you don't believe it. It looks like something from a film, but it isn't. It's that kind of thing made real.
Yeah.
And we are literally living in that era now.
And we're really looking forward to the next few years when it is going to be increasingly integrated into
becomes
industry.
accessible.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So do we have anything else we want to go on?
Yeah, we do. So just before we broke for that song, I was saying that I wanted to rant.
You did
climate
about
change.
politics.
And so I have here 6 news stories that I have
Okay.
at one time or another, except for the last one, which is more recent. I have at one time or another referenced in either in news or in shows.
Right.
And I just think to give everyone some perspective on this, I'm going to go back through them briefly.
Okay.
So that you can see the political movement that is happening and how absolutely ridiculous, terrifying, damaging it really is, because this is such a problem. So the first one is way back. I'm just looking at it and it's depressing me right now. I'm depressed. I just need to cheer myself up.
Just need to
coffee.
take a slurp of his coffee. It's a complete professional, of course.
There we go. Right. Okay. It's the head of the subcommittee on climate change. Okay, he's from Utah,
Okay.
and this is right. The head of the subcommittee of climate change in America. He's in charge of the committee that
Right.
deals with climate change. Right.
Okay, picture this guy.
This is
He's
what he
in
said.
charge.
The world's climate is changing. That has always been true. Our global climate is always in flux and always will be. So while I accept that our climate is changing, I also understand that a great deal of research still needs to be accomplished to understand why, as well as to discover the impacts man might be having on climate change. Now that all sounds pretty good.
It does,
doesn't it?
yeah.
That sounds like
Fairly political.
Great.
Yeah.
You know,
neutral.
this is
Yeah.
relatively even positive. And then he said, I'm not as convinced as a lot of people are that man-made climate is a threat. And then he said that he wanted the Environmental Protection Agency to be dissolved because it thwarts energy development. And then he said there is no better example of the overreach of government than in environmental law. Right?
Right.
Which is like saying, oh, you're not allowed to shoot this animal because it's endangered.
Yeah.
For example.
Essentially, it's saying I don't like people telling me what I can't do, even if it is destroying the entire world. Well, it's very American, but also I say that it sounds American. I'm not limiting that to Americans. I'm not even. It's in a stereotypical Hollywood way where you picture some kind of megalomaniac fat cat in a great big throne somewhere, saying I don't care about the world. Nah, it literally is like that.
It really is like that. So yes, while officially he made, and all of those statements are official statements, but he did make what sounded like at the beginning a good and well-reasoned statement.
Yes.
And
then went back on it to say this kind of thing.
You really, and this is so true now also in this country, and I'm going to come to that, any politician who is, for example here, in this country, if you have a certain politician who is in charge of climate or environment or energy, read things, not only headlines, but then read all of the articles. Anything that they say, it's just worth doing. Okay, so we now move on to the next article.
Okay.
Which was the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, got barred from getting advice for scientists. Now, the reason why this was done, it's a hilarious reason, was balance. It was saying, if you have a company who want to use some compound, and then you have a group of scientists who have studied the effects of this compound, the scientists might be in some way biased because they've done research on the compound. And so they shouldn't be allowed to advise the EPA on whether the EPA should or shouldn't allow that company to use that compound.
There isn't enough laughter in the world. Hysterical, insane laughter. To describe
it gets worse. Because the scientists were replaced by industry-affiliated something or other, industry-affiliated experts or something like that, who were basically people from the companies.
Yes.
So they replaced the scientists who knew what they were talking about with people from the companies to advise the EPA on whether the EPA should or shouldn't allow the company to use a compound.
Who, of course, were not biased at all.
No.
No.
And so that's an example of, first of all, the complete lack of understanding of what science is, and also a complete disregard for the people who give their lives to studying as objectively as they can this world for the betterment of its populace. I actually find it offensive when things like this happen.
It's awful, but it is, again, it's completely sanguine within the bounds of how our society is structured.
Yeah, and so now we have another one. The Grand Old Party, so this is the House of Representatives, attack on climate change. It took a really big step forward this year when they slashed NASA's Earth science budget. Now, NASA, you can essentially split it into two parts. There's the part that deals with space and the part that deals with the Earth. And the part that deals with the Earth does things like mapping tectonics or looking at weather patterns. That's the Earth science.
Really humanitarian, important
stuff. The bit that is important. The bit like, do you remember that hurricane that hit New York?
Yes.
The people who deal with that are NASA and Earth science. Their Earth science part. It was slashed by it was something like 20%. Cut by at least 26%.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, you can make a valid argument for, against the progress of research into space exploration in the face of economic crisis.
Yeah.
You can make an argument for that. I perfectly understand that.
Earth sciences, not so much.
No, not so much, because you're in a time of economic crisis, what you absolutely don't want is some kind of unexpected disaster to befall a vast region of a coastline who aren't prepared for it, and you lose vast swathes of your transportation ability, your shipping, crops, power networks which can't be prepared, a great many things which desperately rely on this network. It's things like the satellites, essentially, isn't it, that they monitor, but also their weather stations, and also just their body of hired researchers who interpret all of this data. These are the people who are being affected.
But the thing to notice here, I mean, what you've said is you can put forward a case for reduced spending if there isn't a humanitarian point to it, because we live in the real world. So you could reduce spending for space travel, for example, or that sort of thing, compared to Earth sciences when there is a real effect. And so that's the kind of the real world argument, the pragmatic argument.
Yeah, it's an argument.
Which is all good and well. The thing to note here is it's the House of Representatives who are in charge of this funding. Okay.
Right.
As in, it's not the Democrats. Right? They're in charge of the funding because they run these committees.
Right.
They haven't cut the space budget because it's part of the American dream.
I see, keeping up appearances. I think it's because I wonder how many people know that NASA does this at all, and therefore it can be done under the radar and nobody notices.
And so the next story is, in a 50 to 49 vote, the US Senate says that climate change is not caused by humans.
Oh, well, in that case...
Because it's the politicians who get to decide
their opinions. Yes.
Whether or not.
No, I mean, in the face of overwhelming data, you can just say, nah, not convinced, and therefore it's not true. That's how it works, I think.
And so this is where everything is going. This is where everything is moving in the States. It's moving in such a way that there is almost a complete denial in many places that we as people, as a species, as 8 billion of us... on this ball of rock, pumping out who knows what into the atmosphere, dragging things out of the ground, has no effect on the mechanics of the planet at all.
Yes.
But it's becoming so
it's understandable.
widespread.
It is understandable. I mean, this ability to affect the planet is very recent. I mean, you can only go back 100 years or so, and to be honest...
But it's come with
it was a negligible effect.
But that's because it's come with population.
It has. A population explosion has...
You go back 250 years, and population was probably close
stable
to
at a billion, and was for many hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But this population explosion simply hasn't given our societies time to adapt to the fact that it's now this great lumbering behemoth which has powers that it never evolved to cope with, and not only physically but in a sociological sense, we haven't adapted. There's no part of our society has adapted to put some kind of self-regulating measure on our own abilities. We now have the ability to do anything to this world at will. We could, there are how many tens of thousands of nuclear warheads stored underground. We could quite easily just end the ecology of the world tomorrow if we wanted to.
Yeah.
We could
what we can't seem to summon the willpower to do is to acknowledge.
That's what I mean. That it takes some kind of far-thinking, very unhuman thinking to do. It's not human to think long-term and think we need to pull together and do something about this.
But you see, I actually don't entirely agree with that argument. I think you could say that it isn't human now, but that's the very thing that we're going to have to evolve to do.
Yes, absolutely.
And so it can be human.
It can be. It's just something that thus far has never been necessary, and therefore that's why there's a perfectly good reason why this isn't in place. It's because it hasn't been evolutionarily necessary, and we are applying evolution here in the sense of sociological evolution, which is equally as valid as biological. Yes, absolutely.
And so, I mean, this has been a theme throughout all of our shows. In a show relatively recently, we sat back and we said, well, at least it's not like that here.
Yes, we did, foolishly.
And then I received this report that the overwhelming majority of Tory MPs do not accept that climate change is man-made, and it upset me.
I mean, once again, it's a matter of, we don't really like that idea, and therefore it shall not be.
So it was a survey of 119 MPs from all parties, a special report on the subject. Only 51% of MPs in total agreed that it is an established fact that global warming is largely man-made.
And do we have any kind of figures on how many people in that sample actually knew what they were talking about, had any kind of training in science whatsoever?
It's probably close to none.
Yeah, I mean, that essentially was rhetorical. That was me being very angry. And this is just another example of free rein being given to people who simply don't know what they're saying.
For example, at the moment, I can't think of the word. The Secretary for Science is Boris Johnson's younger brother, who has a history degree, whose own father said, but he knows nothing about science when the appointment was made.
Which is just brilliant in a really dramatically dismal sense. It's just there are no words. These are really important issues, and they're just kind of treated as a kind of, that's quite funny, isn't it? No.
So here is the thing. We have to be careful. We're not allowed to put any political bias on here. So I do want to make a clear statement here. This isn't about
an agenda of any
isn't
kind.
an agenda
We don't
in
care.
any way, right?
No.
I really, in regards to climate change, I don't care about which party is doing what. Party politics, it just is not important at all. What is important, okay, is that at the moment we have a conservative government, a majority conservative government, and 53% of Conservative MPs agree with the statement that it has not yet been conclusively shown that climate change is man-made.
Well, I mean,
a further 18% on top of that agree that man-made climate change is environmentalist propaganda, whatever that means.
I think that you have to buy into the idea here that we are being neutral in the sense that what we're treating these politicians as are essentially embodiments of the populace they represent. And that I absolutely think that is perfectly representative of the body of the general public.
It is. A third of voters believe that concerns about climate change are exaggerated, and yet we would say, as people who are, I mean, I don't have my degree yet, but I consider myself to be a physicist in the sense that the thing that I do all day, every day, is physics.
Yes.
Right. So I feel I have some level of qualification on this matter.
It's the attitude of logical argument and empiricism, as opposed to I reckon, therefore so shall it be.
The right to have an opinion.
The right to the opinion is currently treated as though it in all cases supersedes any kind of empiricist argument.
Yeah, that it's more important that somebody is
not
able
offended,
to have their opinion rather than
have it be challenged in any way. Yes,
there's
the idea of being challenged and having to defend your opinion. And I say opinion in inverted commas. Yeah, it's inverted commas because it's not an opinion. It's essentially a blank check to say whatever you like without fear of reprisal. It's absurd and it's unhealthy. Because in all cases, what you end up with is a population of crybabies who are too afraid to address their own beliefs, which is. Well, we're nearly there now.
Well, I sent you an article a little while back from a Australian philosopher who said that when he stands up in front of his seminar classes at the beginning of the year, the thing he says to them is, you do not have a right to an opinion. You have a right to try and justify your opinion. That is the thing.
Which is absolutely wonderful. I think that quote should be planted all over the internet and on great many plaques and as many places as we can find, because this baffles me.
I think it's great, as in the right to express your opinion.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Is wonderful.
Yes.
But you have to be able to justify it.
Yes.
In a real sense, in terms of pragmatically, if you want to do something.
Potentially all opinions are equal, of course they are, but, logically sound opinions are equal.
That's before you try and assess whether it's a good or bad opinion, whether it's valid or not. All opinions are valid, fine, but that's before. And finally, the last story, I haven't shared this one with you yet because it's only just hit the web, is a French minister, in light of the UN talks in Bonn that are happening at the moment, where they're trying to take the climate plans that there are at the moment and condense them to try and speed everything up a bit. Right, in Europe and through the UN. So involving the States as well.
Okay.
A French minister said that a climate deal must avoid US Congress approval. Okay, but what did he actually mean by that? And I think this is brilliant because this is so monumentally true. He said, we know the politics in the US. Whether we like it or not, if it comes to the Congress, they will refuse. So the only way, he said, we need to find a formula which is valuable for everybody and valuable for the US without going through Congress.
That's amazing.
So the wording, he's saying wording, because they're trying to push it into law to make things happen. Right. The wording of the legislation needs to be such that it circumnavigates the United States Congress. And I think that's brilliant.
If that is the state that you
that's how bad it is.
That's how bad it is. Yeah, you have to essentially get around your own government to actually enact some good in the world.
Sorry. The French have to get around the American government. It's not even the American. It's a French minister who is saying this is what we have to do if we're going to really do this.
That's amazing. That's truly amazing.
But at the same time, bearing in mind the amount of, as we've just shown, the lack of urgency in the current Conservative government's MPs regarding this issue, and also with talks about renegotiation of EU politics that is going to be happening. Yep. A lot of the legislation that we have in this country regarding the environment and climate change is enforced on us.
Yes.
Right, by the European... And when I say enforced, I mean we agreed to this, we signed up to this, and we're part of these conversations. That means we were there when we agreed this is what we should be doing.
Absolutely.
But...
Essentially, people are moaning about the ability to not go back on their own decisions a priori.
But again, I don't want to be too political. The point here I'm making is it is looking like we are in a place now where there is a real risk we're going to head further and further towards the American kind of denialist.
Yes, I think we're not very far off there at all already.
And to think, just a short while ago, we were saying at least it's not that bad.
Yes, it's how
Shows how
times
quickly-
change. Yep,
how quickly
absolutely,
things
it
move.
does. Let's break for another song, I think.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and we'll address some other issues.
We'll have a bit of a laugh, try and end on a high.
We will indeed. So this is
12:51.
12:51.
12:51 a.m.
and we are back. This is Because the Universe on Radio at Warwick. This is our last 10 minutes of the year. Can you believe it? Oh, so we've had a great lineup. And just in case you want to get in touch with us, if you want to have any topics addressed in our shows next year, or you want to appear on the show, then by all means get in touch. You can email us at becausetheuniverse@aol.com. So, what have we got?
Well, we've just got sort of 5 minutes to end.
We have.
Really,
We have
we?
to
And I was
wrap
just,
up.
And we were just saying how easy it is to be despondent, right? To kind of.
It is.
As in, we don't want to end on a downer.
No.
We don't want to be sad.
There is no need to. I mean, we
No.
address a great many issues in this show, and therefore, of course, you have implicit in that the downs. But
Yeah.
there are a great many ups. I mean, the amount of wonderful things that we've been able to talk about this year
Yeah.
boggles the mind. Space exploration, 3D printing, biological enhancements, medicines, immortality. It has been an endless list.
There was some philosophy in there. There was
There
just
was.
maths. The
There was
meaning of
maths. Yes,
existence.
indeed.
It's been great.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
But I mean, the reason why it's so easy to end on a downer when you're doing what we're doing here, which isn't just science for the sake of science, as in we are interested in the world out there and the people in it.
Yes.
It's easy to end on a downer because we see problems
Yes.
and we realise that many people, the scientists, right, people who devote their lives to this, they know the solutions. We're there now.
yes.
Right, and actually, that's the thing that it becomes easy to neglect. How incredible a lot of what we have achieved and are achieving, and things that are happening. Right, it's like 3D printing.
Yes, it
Right.
is. You can never get used to it. You can never process the sheer
It's-
magnitude of that achievement.
Or the fact that already it's not just a conversation. It's edging towards reality.
Yes.
Things like 3D printing skin.
Yes.
In burn accidents, for
Yes,
instance.
I mean, it's not really reported on. That's the thing, that we tend to not report on the truly amazing things. And the things that are reported on are the sensational stories. They're the things that people go, ooh,
Yeah.
but they're not the
Or
things
the
that actually...
downers.
Indeed, yeah, the
Right?
downers, the disasters, but they're not the things that actually change the way
No.
the world we live in. The idea that... I think that... I still can't believe that smartphones didn't have an amazing, press
They just
interest.
kind of edged in.
They
didn't
did. I mean, it just kind of became implicit that everyone would have them, and that. But I still can't understand the idea that if you were to take something like a smartphone, slap it in front of a person, and say, "Could you make me one of those from scratch?" The amount of time it would take somebody to, it would take
Well,
endless lifetimes to accumulate
Yeah,
that amount of knowledge in
it
one
would.
tiny little device
It
like
would.
that.
And it's just like we were saying when we had Helen Myers on the show and we were talking about science fiction.
Yes, absolutely.
That because people are so used to it, it's lost its magic factor.
Yes,
but
people have become-
actually, you only have to think about it for a little while, and then it looks like magic again.
Absolutely.
And it
What's
looks-
people have been essentially conditioned to respond to sensationalist propaganda instead of something which is genuinely mind-boggling and life-changing, which is okay. So it doesn't look so great on a headline, but when you stop and you just think about what that actually
Yeah.
means for the world that we live in, it is amazing. We're even edging on now on things like wearables.
Mm-hmm. Or did you see just Apple and
Yes.
the wearable and the touchscreen jeans?
Yes, I mean, but it sounds silly when you say it like that, because we've been trained, like I said, to respond to sensationalist headlines. But when you think about what that could mean, not for genes,
No.
but in terms of
Wearable
changing-
technology.
changing the way that we interact with our own technology in a way that it becomes integrated into the way that we live,
Yeah.
the way that we exist.
Yeah.
It's quite easy in that sense to see a time very shortly in the future where we will be inseparable from our own technology.
And so this is the kind of thing that we're going to try and talk about when we have the time in our podcast.
Yes.
Right? We want to try and reclaim, because this has just come to me now, everyone knows we live in a universe.
Yes.
Right, the multiverse is about saying it's not a parallel universe. It's weirder than that. It's like multiple versions of universes happening that are in some way related or all happening at the same time, and so it's just weird, and people get excited when
Yes.
you talk. That's what
That's
we want.
the science.
That's what
we want people up
We wanna
on the
draw
edges of
that.
their
Yeah.
seats with their hands curled
Because it is so exciting,
It
the
is.
place that we're in. And that's why we're doing this now, because we just want to talk about it. And it's
We
great
do,
fun.
and we just want to bring it to everyone else. I mean, I think we've had a great run, and
We've had some
great
wonderful
success.
people.
We
Thank
have.
you again
Yes.
to all of the guests, to anyone
You've
that's been
all been
involved.
wonderful.
You've been brilliant. So
And
thank you.
absolutely, once again, I just want to say it one more time. If you have anything you want us to talk about next year, or you want to come on, we would love to have you. So we'll give out the email address one more time. It's becausetheuniverse@aol.com. Please get in touch.
And thank you so much for tuning in every fortnight, if you do, or listening on YouTube or whatever. We've loved it, and we'll be back next year.
We will indeed. So I think that we should start wrapping up now. So Ducky isn't with us.
No,
The last
he's not.
showing.
No, he's not.
He's not. But, we have to say goodbye for him. I believe he's still on the ISS.
Yep, he is. He's
is.
doing important work, as he was 2 weeks ago. Well, no,
Wonderful.
4 weeks ago, actually.
He was
That
4 weeks
good.
ago,
Gosh.
yes. Wonderful. Well, he says goodbye.
He says goodbye.
Yes, he does. And we're going to say goodbye now
Yeah.
because we're leaving. But we will be back next year. And thank you,
and
everyone.
hopefully we'll be putting something up over the summer anyway.
We will. Keep a lookout on the YouTube channel. If you want to check out the Facebook page, then by all means do that. You'll see the links.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we are going to say goodbye now.
That we are. Goodbye.
We are. So we're
Goodbye
gonna
from us.
signing out. So this is Because the Universe on Radio at Warwick. Thank you ever so much for
It's been
listening
a great
in.
year.
You've been Matthew Lane.
I have been, and you've been Harry Manners.
I have indeed. Thanks for listening, everyone. We're going to go out on Alex Gray. Feel alive. We'll see you after the summer. I do indeed.
Science is just... I think science is so exciting.
It's so much fun.
I just can't contain my excitement at the science that we've been talking about.
Just for anybody listening in, yes, we have come in for the last bit. I am showing you Matthew Lane in his natural state.
Science, everybody, science. Just go and do science.
It's a nature documentary, ladies and gentlemen. This is what he like. When we bring him out of his cage, this is what he's like.
And also, Harry, don't you think that science is so mysterious?
It is mysterious, Matthew.
So mysterious.
Yeah. Do you want to go back in the box now?
Let's go back in the box.
Go back in the box.
Oh,
We're going to come back out of the box
Science.
after summer.
Time to give
Wonderful.
me the shivers.
It's science, yes, science.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Say bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.